Jeremy Lin. Jeremy is here. There he is, he's mic'd up. Jeremy Lim is going to talk to us about cooking for a healthy gut, the gut-brain connection through food. I tell you, I had some great little connections for lunch 3 times, little square cubes under the heat lamp. But with all seriousness, Jeremy Lim, the CEO and co-founder of Amelie, we welcome you to the stage. The gut-brain connection. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Welcome.
much. Thank you, Andy. Hi, everyone. A very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to Singapore. I'm the homegrown entertainment to humor you after lunch today. Maybe before I start, can I congratulate all of you for actually being in this auditorium after lunch when the rain has stopped and the sun is out. So kudos for being here. Second point I will make is that Singapore's economy is not doing terribly well. So please skip a couple of sessions and go and spend money. We will be grateful to you. All right? So, all right. I've been asked to share a little about gut health, which is a bit daunting because I would presume you guys know a lot about the gut. I hope I know a bit more about health than you guys, but not sure whether I'm the first doctor to speak to you in this session. Maybe show of hands, how many of you are medical doctors? Not a single one, all right. So if I told you total hogwash, you wouldn't know the difference. Okay, that's great. Okay, so just some disclosures of some of the other things that I do, but really welcome to Singapore. This is the Singapore that many of you typically see on the glossy brochures, and for those of you who are less familiar and you're sleeping most of the flight, Singapore is this little red dot at the southern tip of the peninsula that has Malaysia, Thailand, and really so on and so forth. The good thing about Singapore is that we are in the tropics, okay, and the biodiversity in the tropics is magnitudes more than in the temperate climates, and that's actually very, very good from a gut health point of view. However, as you see all these glossy pictures, something that is less well known to many people is that half of Singapore, despite us being very, very small, half of Singapore is reserved for nature, right? So the remaining half, all of us have to squeeze into high-rise buildings because our founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew felt it was very, very important for Singapore to be that garden in a city, city in a garden. And from a gut health point of view, that actually turns out to be very, very important. I wanted to show these slides also to illustrate that despite the wealth you see here in Singapore, despite all the glossy pictures, we, like the rest of the world, are suffering from a mental health epidemic. I think it is very, very clear that many of us, especially the young people, are struggling with mental health issues. In fact, here in Singapore, the leading cause of death amongst both men and women under the age of 30 is suicide. All right? And we're not alone. Our East Asian friends from Japan, from South Korea, and so on, similarly face mental health challenges. And in fact, just a recent survey that was done just a couple of weeks ago shows that 1 in 3 youth in Singapore reported very poor mental health. Now, what does this have to do with all of you? The answer is a lot. And particularly in countries where citizens or residents eat out a lot. And here in Singapore, the average is that 6 in 10 people eat most of their weekday meals outside the home setting. So the foods that you cook, the foods that you teach your juniors to cook really matters a lot on the overall health, including mental health. Maybe show of hands, how many of you have heard of this term, gut microbiome? Okay, wow. Oh, bravo. Okay, so very, very simply, you are smarter than I am, because when I was in medical school 30 years ago, I had no idea what this term meant. But suffice to say, the term gut microbiome refers to the 70 trillion odd microbes that live inside our gut. Okay, and I know it's after lunch, but you guys are chefs. Fun fact number 1, every time you poop, okay, don't laugh, all right, 65 to 70% of your poop is microbial. All right, the remaining 30-35% would be undigested foods and insoluble fibers. But clearly, there's a lot of microbes that are in our gut. This collectively is about, fun fact number 2, 2 to 3 kilograms. So all of us are carrying 2 to 3 kilograms worth of microbes that are in our gut. And we never knew how important these microbes were until relatively recently, because the technology, my world, the world of genomics, the world of compute, was not sufficiently sophisticated to appreciate how important these microbes were. And it was only recently that we now agree in the medical world that the microbiome is the most important scientific discovery for human healthcare in recent decades. And this is why the microbiome is important. All right, if you remember nothing else, if after lunch you're a bit sleepy, go to sleep in exactly 1 minute's time. All right, let me just walk you through this. Okay, and this is an award-winning electron micrograph. So yes, we nerdy scientists also win awards for really photographs. And this colorful thing you see on the right hand, on the left hand side, in different colors, these are all the different microbes that are stained differently. These nice blue signet or ring-like colors, these are the intestinal cells, and between these two, there is a lush green mucous membrane that is a barrier that prevents the bad stuff inside our gut from crossing into the intestinal cells. And what we now know is that every time we eat, the food we eat feeds our cells. It also feeds the 70 trillion microbes. And these 70 trillion microbes then produce molecules or metabolites that cross this barrier into the intestinal cells, into the bloodstream, and cause the health effect. So many of you would have heard of the so-called happy molecule called serotonin, right? And those of you old enough like me will remember drugs like Prozac and so on. Well, interestingly, 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut, not in the brain. So the stuff that we feed our cells, we feed our microbes, has profound effect on everything we do because of this axis from microbe to molecule or to metabolite to the health effects. And this membrane is important to really reflect, because when it is damaged or compromised for whatever reason, bad things happen. So this is a very interesting slide that tells us that as we become more and more modernized, our gut microbes become depleted. And just like a rainforest, the more diversity there is, the lusher the rainforest is, the better it is. And it's the same for us in human health. The more variety there is in our microbes, the better it is. And what we see here, what this study shows, is that as we move from traditional or from indigenous societies, the so-called jungle savanna, the hunter-gatherers, through to very urban populations, our microbiome diversity depletes. And this then results in a lot of unintended healthcare consequences. So this is from The Guardian, and essentially autoimmune diseases have exploded in not just the Western world, but also here in Asia. How many of you worry about peanut allergies when you serve food? Nobody? Wow. Okay. Well, the interesting thing is, when I was a kid, peanut allergies were almost unheard of. However, in my own hospital here in Singapore, the National University Hospital, in the last 10 years, we've seen a 33x increase in the number of food allergy consultations. And it's pretty clear that, as what it says, as what James Lee from the UK's Francis Crick Institute says, our genes don't change fast enough. Something else must be changing, and that really is the microbiome. So let me take a step back also. Many ingredients that you use, the emulsifiers, the preservatives, that we thought was harmless, because at the time that they were introduced into food chains, we did not know any better. We thought that if it didn't cause cancer, it didn't kill people immediately, it was probably safe. What we now know is that common emulsifiers, the ones that bring the water and the oily elements together, actually damage the microbiome. Not at supranormal or at very high doses, but at physiological doses. And what this mouse study shows, that when you use water, you see the nice lush green mucous membrane. When you use two common emulsifiers, you see that it becomes a bit whittled down, a bit thin, and you see these red things start to pass through. That's also why, after a lifetime of insult to our microbiome and to our gut, it's not uncommon to have senior onset food allergies. Like my own dad says he's never had issues eating shellfish. Now that he's in his 80s, almost 90s, he says, wow, when he eats crab and prawn, he starts to get itchy. And the reason is very, very simple. As we grow older, our microbes evolve. This mucous membrane becomes thinner, and the antigens or the food particles that cause these allergies can cross through this layer into the intestinal cells, into the bloodstream. So food allergies don't just occur in infancy, they occur in adulthood also. And the good news is that what this study does show is that a high plant diet does protect against a lot of this damage to the mucous membrane. So I won't bore you with the details. Suffice to say, take-home message, many things we thought were safe, much like tobacco 70 years ago, we now know are not that safe from a microbiome point of view. And many things, this is from the BBC, and Nissin is something that I suspect most of you use, whether you know it or not, particularly in East Asian foods. So what do the scientists say? This is from Justin Sonnenberg's lab over in Stanford, and this is what Justin very eloquently says. Many of these advances have been implemented in the absence of understanding the collateral damage, right? That's inflicted on our resident microbes. We harm our microbes, we harm ourselves. So what many scientists the world over, and this is Professor Michael Kam, who is from Melbourne University, one of our advisors, he and many others have started to advocate for the battle, for this revolution to control the intake of processed foods into our diet and hence our harm in the microbiome, particularly in the Western world, because processed foods are, as you can see here, 60% of the calories in the US, slightly over half in the UK, and the list goes on and on. So what we do need to do then is to rediscover real food. And many of you, you are chefs, you are in the driver's seat when it comes to helping individuals to rediscover real food and improve our microbiome, improve human health. So let me shift gears a little bit to the brain and the gut microbiome. And I pulled this out of the Stanford University website. Very simply, remember that nexus that I shared, the food we eat feeds our cells, feeds our microbes. Our microbes produce molecules. These molecules then affect human health. And many of these then either cause good things or they cause bad things. And foods that are high in fiber, fermented foods, as well as that are fresh, all these, if you remember nothing else, remember the 3 Fs. Fresh, fermented, fibrous. These improve the microbiome, they improve brain health, they improve mood. A lot of the ultra-processed foods give us a very quick sugar high, fires the dopamine receptors in our brain, makes us feel good for all of a very, very short period of time. And after that, what is described as the post-sugar crash, and then people start to feel depressed, they start to feel a bit down, and that we never knew why. We're able to explain this today very, very simply by looking at how things affect the microbes as well as the metabolites. So this is a study that comes out of Cork University. Are there any Irish here? Okay, there's supposed to be 3 Irishmen here. I guess they've gone off to party. So no judgment, no judgment. Okay, but I wanted to call out Ireland because the Irish coined the term psychobiome, which really describes the relationship between our mood and our brain health with the microbiome. And this study, it essentially illustrates that when we change the diet over a very, very short period, this is just a 2-week study, we can then change the perceived levels of stress, and these are accompanied by changes in the individual's microbiomes. Remember that that the life cycle of a microbe in our gut is very short, only 20 to 30 minutes. So over one meal, over a couple of days, we can change the neurochemistry in the brain very quickly and hence improve or worsen human health. So can I leave you with these parting thoughts? Because I'll be really glad to take any questions. We traditionally think of food and health in only two domains. What are the calories, proteins, and fats, and so on? That's the so-called macronutrients. Then we think also about the micronutrients, zinc, selenium, magnesium, vitamins. But I would submit to all of you that there is a third leg of this stool, and that's the effect on the 70 trillion microbes that are in our gut. We never had the tools to analyze this. We do today. So my appeal to all of you on this Sunday afternoon is when you think of food and its relationship to health, think of not just the macronutrients, the micronutrients, but also think of the gut microbiome. So let me close with these thoughts. Let food be thy medicine, and let medicine be thy food. It is very, very unusual for us medical doctors to think about food, because frankly, we don't earn money when we prescribe food. You guys do, right? We earn money when we prescribe medicines, right? But as the ancient Chinese saying goes, he that takes medicine and neglects diet wastes the skills of the physician. So I just want to round off by not scaring any of you, same for Andy, that eat whatever you want in moderation if they're not very good for health. But this long-standing Harvard study, 85 years and counting, and you've seen and you've read about the blue zones and really so on. Overwhelmingly, please think of food as not just macronutrients, micronutrients, microbiome, but food is social. All of you have such an important role in food to bring people together, right? And overwhelmingly, the biggest factor for a happy life is community, as this graphic that comes out of Harvard shows: hearty friendships, attention, common interests, respect, kindness, community, togetherness. This is what food can bring, and this is what brings happiness, brain health, and longevity. So on this note, I'd like to thank all of you for your attention. If time permits, I'll be very happy to take one or two questions. So thank you very much once again, and welcome to Singapore.
Thank you. Fresh, fermented, and fibrous.
Oh, thank you, Andy.
I need to find a four-legged chicken like that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Peter Wright will hand over a lovely little thank you to you, sir, and thank you to our speaker, Jeremy Lim.
Oh, sorry, I'll stand here.
The CEO and co-founder of Amelie, who has got our gut and brain working. Bit like cheese, cow and bug in perfect harmony.
Thank you very much.
Well done, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. We just do a quick stage change. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're just going to do a quick stage change, ladies and gentlemen. Give us 2 seconds.